Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the PowerPlay discussion series. I'm your host, Darren Peters, and joined by my co-host and colleague, Ceresia Nelson.
Hey there, everybody. So glad to be back with you, Darren. Welcome to the PowerPlay Series. We've got another hot one for you. So we're excited to get started.
Yeah, and this is going to be another great discussion, conversation with, Shelley Davis, who's a good friend who I've known for a number of years. He's done a lot of things in life, and I know that this is going to be a very interesting dialogue here today.
Yes.
So, Teresa, why don't you introduce Shelley for us?
Okay. He's no stranger to the Peter Damon Group, of course. He's no stranger, period, in the world of politics. He's a man. He's the man, okay? So I'm going to have to read. Look at Shelley making faces. I'm going to read because I got to get all of this right. Shelley Davis, our guest today, is a senior executive leader in public policy and external affairs, and his political career spans nearly 2 decades. I know he looks super young, and he is super young. He got started when he was 10, okay? His political resume is lengthy, but we'll tell you that he's been one of the youngest office holders in his native Texas. He's been the executive director of the Texas Black Legislative Caucus. He's served numerous presidential campaigns heading up African American outreach. He served on the Hill as chief of staff for 2 congresswomen, and he's worked up close and personal with the Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. for numerous years as a senior advisor. And of course, he has been a national political director for the RainbowPUSH Coalition. To top it off, of course, as I mentioned, he's a senior advisor for the Peter Damon Group, and he is our guest on the PowerPlay Series. Welcome, Shelley Davis.
Thank you.
And I know I left a whole bunch of stuff out, but I was trying to give the highlight reel,
Right. Well, listen, I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity, Darren. The Peter Damon Group is family, I would consider. And off the top, I'm most appreciative of you giving me the opportunity to work with such an esteemed and elite group of Black or multicultural group of folks that I work with there at PDG. But it's been an amazing opportunity to work with you. So I'm very proud to be a part of that family.
And glad to have you here. Welcome to the discussion, Shelley. And as Ceresia said, you definitely have a very impressive career, public policy, politics. But let's take it back for a minute. You're on the record, as Ceresia said, you're the youngest office holder ever in your hometown. So for all of these young people out here who think you have to be, in your mid 30s, 40s, 50s to make a difference, tell us about what inspired you to run for the seat on city council in Georgetown, Texas, and all the other things that you've done at such a young age.
Well, so Darren, thanks again. How it started, and Tricia, how it started was I was an active teenager in my community. I knew that our bus stop depots where we caught the bus didn't have covered space for us to stand under when it rained, when there was inclement weather. I knew that we didn't have certain things that my counterparts in the other communities didn't have. And so I started being active with an organization that I created or called and founded with me and my mentor at that time, which was Teens for Tomorrow. And Teens for Tomorrow, I started at 16. And so Teens for Tomorrow was an organization that teens in the community went up and cleaned the park and cleaned our community and the African-American community there in Georgetown. It was important that our community looked like the rest of the community. And so it didn't. And so my interest was to try to help clean that up. And so got to work on that, worked on the mayor's campaign as a teen, although I was not aware of the party affiliations, if you will. And so, but nonetheless, I got the experience. From that point on, well, let me back up. My mother was very instrumental. She worked for Vista, which was a government organization back then, which would be considered now, which is USAID. So he helped Hispanics to understand the paperwork in order to get citizenship here in the United States. And so we would tag along with her to these communities, to this community there in Georgetown. And it was important then, and I saw that it was important for me to carry on the legacy of that in a sense of giving back to the community. And so thereafter that, I graduated high school, ended up going to college. I went to a fashion college, Wade's College in Dallas, Texas, thinking I could,
So that's where you get all this. I mean, he is a very, very sharp dresser. So
now we know, right?
And look, I didn't quite make it there. I was 5'9", so I couldn't quite make it on the runway. But nonetheless, I did that, came back home, got more active. The deacon in my church was the first African American city council member. Okay. He was like my mentor when I came back home. And so unfortunately he passed. And my community said, Shelley, you're next. I was 24 at the time when it started. Excuse me. And ended up running for office. I won by 76% of the vote. I beat a 76-year-old with 76% of the vote. And from that point on, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I'll speed it up a little bit. Ended up losing my race in 2000 and thought the world had ended. Yeah. So these people in my own community doesn't like me. They don't want me. But I met Rodney Ellis on the way. He was then a state senator for Houston. And I saw him. He saw me speaking somewhere. And he said, you need to come to the Capitol. Come to Austin. Went to Austin, met with him for breakfast that morning. I left at 5 p.m. that afternoon with a job. So
wow.
He groomed me. So I am indebted to Rodney Ellis. He is now the county, the
county commissioner, in Houston.
Houston, okay.
Up Harris County, yeah. And so he introduced me to Reverend. And from that point on, I'll say he introduced me. He introduced me. I went to work for Reverend for 2 weeks. 2 weeks has turned into 22 years. I'm here now.
And you know that your reference to Reverend is Reverend. We are, but yes. It's Reverend, Jesse Jackson.
The Reverend.
Yes, indeed.
That's so awesome. That's really just a divine path and divine journey that you're on. So I know that you and Darren know each other really well. You're a veteran of several presidential campaigns. I love to hear Darren's stories, his war stories, as they were from the campaign trail. So I know that you probably have your fair share of stories that and memories that you have accumulated along the way of working on presidential campaigns. Can you share a more memorable moment, or what's something that has really stood out to you from your time working, being on the campaign trail for presidential candidates?
My first campaign that I worked on was the Gore Lieberman in Florida, in Jacksonville. And I have to say, Rodney pushed me and said, look, you need to go. Once I lost my race, he said, look, you need to go on the national stage and do something on the national level. Why don't we try to work on getting you to do something in Florida or with the DNC? And so that's where they actually found a place for me to go. And I became the regional GOTV director for GOTV for that region. And when I tell you, it was something that I had never done, as you could imagine. I was only on the state level, but I hadn't really done the whole grassroots politics other than my local politics and running my own race. It was one of the most eye-opening experiences that I could have ever had. And having the opportunity to meet so many surrogates that came in, to be able to schedule them, to provide talking points, to be able to open an office from ground zero, literally. It was a warehouse that I had to open up, and I had to clean it out. I had to pay the rent from our budget. I had to do the whole 9 yards. There was nothing there but me. And it was an amazing experience. Now, in the meantime of that, 1999, I had lost my sister and my grandmother within a month apart. So I was still somewhat grieving in that time. And I got to Florida, and every night I was crying. I didn't understand. Like, why am I going through this? Why am I going through this? Come to find out, I was actually grieving.
Yeah.
but also trying to start a new job and try to run a presidential campaign. And so, but that experience for me to dive into a presidential campaign, meet all these surrogates, begin to have Maxine Waters, these legends to come to my city that I'm organizing these rallies, these events, these knocking on door sessions, these GOTV programs was an absolute amazing shock and experience that I will never, ever forget. And that happens to be, I had already met Reverend, I think, a couple of times, but I never worked with him in the sense of other than Rodney running the show when he came to Houston. This time it was on me, and he was willing and accepted the invitation for him to come in. We had the largest rally, the GOTV rally, and it was absolutely amazing. So that's, I think, what solidified my ability to be on a national stage. So I'm very proud of that.
You know what, and it's good that you say this, because I talk to a lot of young people from time to time, and they're always asking about considering this or that, and I usually tell them, look, if you're interested in politics, political world, take a chance, get out on a campaign, a presidential campaign. Don't be concerned about the money.
Right.
Just think about the experience, because a campaign is almost like, I've never been in a war, but it's kind of like being in a war, in the military, in a war where you can start off as a private and you can end up as a captain, or even more than that. And that's how those campaigns are. They just move so fast. You learn so much in such a short period of time. You meet so many different types of people that you gain a wealth of knowledge just by being there. So I encourage people
it's on the job training, right?
Yeah.
You literally are thrust into it. You're thrown into it, and stuff happens where you have to make the decision. And
Well,
who's going to help make the decision? You.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I encourage all the young folks that have an interest in to make a change, make a difference. Do it. Do what makes you feel best and right, and also what makes the community or the people that you're fighting for do that, because I guarantee you, your heart will be at peace. You will have a peace of mind, and you'll be happy at the end of the day.
That's good advice. That is excellent advice.
Yeah.
You want to segue? I want this next question. Well, you ask it, Darren, but
no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, so of course, I'm enamored with the Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. and so I just want to know. I know that work has probably been near and dear to your heart. You mentioned 22 years. What have you learned serving and working alongside this icon of civil rights and justice, and what have you learned at his foot, by his side?
Right. I don't know that there is a book, a degree, or any other experience that I could have ever wished for or wanted. I was literally, asked to go to Chicago for 2 weeks. I went for 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, guys, I didn't quite understand how someone could be on the road for 12 of those 14 days. Didn't conceive it.
Mm-hmm.
We were on the road. The experience that I got in those 2 weeks was something that I could never, ever forget. The ability to understand that Reverend Jackson's ability to be on so many levels of public policy, civil and human rights, equality, and have a heart and a passion for it. I think that's where I got my passion also, aside from when I was back in Texas. But I think I got it from him understanding that he never got angry.
Wow.
He never was fluttered or, taken aback. Nothing ever surprised him. But he always handled the situation. It was so many instances where I knew that our backs were against the wall as far as a campaign or as far as a fight for the labor groups. But the way that he handled it, the way that he handled irate, people that were angry, people that were frustrated, people that were hurt, people that had issues and concerns that were real, he actually felt those people and engage them. And it was something that I will hold near and dear to my heart, because I could never, ever, ever forget that, nor would I want to. But it's just something that has groomed me and put me in a space and a place where it all comes from the heart. Reverend shared with me on a couple of times. He always has a certain quote or something,
Yeah.
as people like to keep up alive or something. But he enjoyed reading Jesus the Disinherited by Howard Thurman.
Mm.
And I may misquote him, but his politics come out of his religion. It's not the other way around.
Mm.
So whatever's in my heart, whatever I feel, and whatever that, in my opinion, what he's saying is whatever I feel is coming from my religion, from my heart, as opposed to my ideology.
Yeah.
And Reverend always lived by that. And so that's a book that I really enjoyed reading and still reference it, because it's something that Reverend has had for the 22 plus years that I've been with him. He is an absolute amazing person. I think people don't realize that he actually is a jokester. As you guys could understand, Darren, he likes to play the dozens.
I bet he's good at it. I bet he's really good at it.
I did not quite understand it. My colleagues, Gary Flowers and Joe Leonard, they were both saying, Shelley, Red's going to come at you. I said, well, and they said, well, you have to come after him. I said, oh, no, I can't do that.
I can't do that.
That'd be inappropriate and disrespectful, and I can't do that. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, you keep getting your butt kicked in. One day you'll. So I had to learn his cadence of joking and not joking. And so we actually have had an amazing time. One of the guys is saying that we should do a video or either a pamphlet on bloopers on the road with Jesse Jackson.
I'd watch.
Well, we need to, a lot of, you talk about some of those things he used to say that are memorable, that, I can remember him coming to Central to, saying that, I am somebody, respect me, protect me, never neglect me. My mind is a pearl. I can learn anything in the world. Now, I haven't heard that in a long time, but I remember it.
Yeah.
Darren is talking about from high school, so that's a long time ago.
That was a few years ago. Yeah.
But he what he does is it leaves a memorable moment in so many people. I think as we traveled across the country, and I'll segue real quick, I've gone from Hong Kong to London, including the Middle East, including South Africa, including Africa, South America, Canada, and especially the Middle East. I've never understood how the reverence that he has had across the globe and still be able to maintain a normal human life and be able to still adjust and make it an everyday life. It is every day, and traveling that broad and that many places throughout the airports, wherever we are globally, there's not a time that I did not get a request for his 84 or 88 speech. If you read that speech today, it's relevant. It would mean something to you. I suggest and recommend.
And those were his president when he was running for president.
Yes, in 1984 and 1988. If you go back and just Google it and you read the words, it's absolutely amazing, and it's relevant today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Super
Well,
cool.
Well, look, we've been talking about your resume, about all the things you've done, campaigns, Reverend Jackson, politics, all of that. But we want to know a little bit more about what kind of things interest you outside of work. I mean, we know you're a runner. I already mentioned that you're
fashionista.
You're a fashionista too. Tell us a little bit about what brings you joy.
My mom. mom means the world. Grew up as a single parent with a single parent, brother and a sister. Didn't have much, but we had a grandmother that loved us, grandfather. We had a mother that did the best that she could with what she had. And I think I'm here today because of that. I would not be where I am today if it had not been for a mother that was supportive, and continues to support any and everything that I do. And so that means a lot to me. She's all I got. And so that means a lot. The things I enjoy are obviously running. I enjoy that. It gives me peace.
Yeah.
In high school, I ran track, and I was a sprinter. So I was a 100, 200 long jump. Never had an interest in running long distance, anything over a quarter. I was like, that's crazy. Who does that? Why would but running is my safe space, my safe place. And I enjoy that space. I enjoy traveling, and just FYI, I will leave next week on a what I like to call a monumental trip. It's a big 55, so I'm going to take a trip to Europe and South Africa, and then end up in Accra, Ghana. So, but travel interests me. Reverend is the cause of that. I think going to a lot of the places that we've visited, and I'll get a chance now to actually see the stuff, see the sights, and see the things that I wanted to see when we were there. Because when you're with Reverend, you're moving so fast, you have motorcades, you're back and forth, and so this trip is on me, for me to decompress and to get re-energized and to enjoy and relax.
That's what's up. Enjoy it. Enjoy. Take lots of pictures.
Be assured.
We'll be stalking your Instagram for photos, so.
Indeed.
So we certainly appreciate, man, I appreciate everything that you've said. As a mom, I pray my sons will feel that way about me someday. So that's inspiring. So we just appreciate you. Now listen, we always ask our guests, if there is one thing, and you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, you've heard a lot, met a lot of people. If there is one problem or issue in the world that you could eradicate, it would be your power play. What would your one power play be to make the ultimate difference?
Can I give you two?
It's Shelley Davis. Why not? Go ahead.
Okay. There's two. I think that there should be universal health care. I think that everybody should have health care. Health is wealth. Thank you for that. Health is wealth. And I also think the federal right to vote. The federal right to vote, ability to, and not have to come back to it each and every couple years.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Why don't we have the universal right? Why don't we have the right to vote?
Yeah. It's a shame that we even have to
is it an issue?
About having legislation to make it so.
Why is it an issue? Why is that a problem today? Why can't we do that today? And why is it not as accessible? It's by design. But
those would be two major power plays for sure. Yeah. Game changers.
Yeah.
Game changers.
Yeah. Well, I would like to say that I've watched your series, and I watched the people that you've had on, and I think this is a great opportunity, Aaron, for you to highlight folks that are doing things. Sometimes you don't hear from them, or you don't see them, or either you're the wingman, or either you're the person that's in the backdrop. But doing this series is actually a great thing to happen. Before I close, look, I sound like I'm a preacher.
That means the closing is coming in about 30 minutes.
In about 30 minutes.
One of the things, at some point when I was, early on with Reverend, and we were on the plane, we were, high up in the air, 30,000 feet, and it was just he and I on the private plane. And sometimes I wish I had recorded it, but it wasn't the opportune time, or did I know to do so? But he was reading the paper, and he had his glasses just over his
Bridge of his nose.
nose, and he was reading, and he said, "Buddy, I want you to understand something. I want you to understand that everybody has a ministry." I was like, "What does he mean?" I said, "I'm not a minister, because on the road, everybody asks me. They think I'm the adjutant. I'm a minister. I'm in the clergy." And so he said, "Your ministry is what you do for me every day."
Mhm.
I didn't quite understand it when I first started, because I was like, "How is that? I'm a personal assistant. How does that ministry? What does that ministry do?" The moral of that is that it became something that made me. It became something that I did as my ministry, as opposed to a job.
Yeah.
And so, to the young kids and to the young adults that are doing something now that they think is not the best, you might not do the best things in that particular position. Make it your ministry, because once you do that, then it's compassion. There's an interest, compassion. That's what you want. It's from the heart. And so every single day, I made it my business to make sure that Reverend was on point. He dressed appropriately. Everything that he needed was taken care of, whether it be the notes, the suits, anything.
Yeah.
And so
Callbacks, hey, you can make sure you call so and so, make sure you
Right.
recognize this person, and
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's my ministry.
Mhm.
And I claim that now. And this is my ministry of what I do. So I thank you, Darren, for allowing me to share my ministry.
Well, thank you for being here. We said this was going to be one of our more interesting episodes, and it's lived up to it. And I know Sarisa is about to ask you for some social media stuff. So
okay, yeah, by all means, by all means.
Yeah, because I told you we want to stalk your Instagram for this trip, and so tell us, what's your Instagram handle, and where else can we find you if we need
It is
to?
Shelley P. Davis.
Okay.
Or Instagram, and Shelley Davis on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So give us some good content.
Great. I will do that. I will do that. It's been a pleasure, guys.
Man, you've been inspirational and powerful, and we feel your passion and believe that you're on your right divine journey. So,
well, as I've said earlier, I knew it was going to be, a great episode of the PowerPlay discussion series. So thanks again to our guest, Shelley Davis, for joining us. We wish you well. We wish you all the best, and hope that you keep it moving forward. Thank you for joining us.